Greetings, stranger. Did you know that this place sells blood-eye coffee by the pint? I didn't, and I will regret finding out tomorrow morning. But first, let's return to our wonderfully tongue-in-cheek map of the Inner Sea region and resume our lightning tour of every single country within it. This time, Garund. Remember that Garund's full size actually stretches far to the south beyond the limits of even the most detailed maps. We only know it's shaped like this because one of the most famous Pathfinders, Dervin Guest, circumnavigated it 400 years ago. He documented many strange lands and peoples residing beyond the Mwangi Expanse and Impossible Lands, but seeing as we already have plenty to occupy as at present, we're going to pretend henceforth that they don't exist. Okay? Great. Let's begin with the one place that isn't technically in Garund at all. Absalom, home to the city at the center of the world, which is also called Absalom. I could go on and on about this place, but it would all be a clever ruse to distract you from noticing that if you stop and think about it for 2 seconds, it is not actually at the center of the world at all. It's not even in the middle of the Inner Sea region. Then you'd realize that, as far as Absalom is concerned, the world ends at its walls, and suddenly the title starts to make sense. If you were to sail directly south from Absalom, you would run into Assyrian. In ages past, a unique pantheon of animal-headed gods ruled this ancient and proud land, before they all apparently got bored, packed up everything, including their culture, and left for that ever-mysterious planet Earth. The whole pantheon just hightailed it to Egypt and left Assyrian to deal with the fallout. Heading westwards, we come to Thuvia, a loose confederation of city-states united by a single product, the Sun Orchid Elixir. Invented by the brilliant alchemist Articus Kiran in 1140, the elixir functionally makes its drinker immortal by returning them to the stage of a young adult. Only 7 vials are produced each year, one of which is apparently retained by Kiran himself because he realized that this was the only way to ensure his copyright to it would never expire. Next, we have Raha Doom. Everyone here is an atheist in the eyes of the law, and worshipping any deity will see you fined, exiled, or executed. The laws of morality do not deny the gods' existence, but merely resent their influence over mortals. Just don't ask a local what will happen to them after death, and you'll be fine. Off the northwestern coast of Garund lies Miriagalti Island, home to the famous Red Mantis assassins. They may think this is a secret, but they also think that going around in public dressing like this helps them blend in, so make of that what you will. Next to Miriagalti Island is the Eye of Abendig. Oh, come on! Next to that permanent, screaming maelstrom lies a region called the Sodden Lands. No awards for guessing why. Previously it was claimed by the nations of Lirgain and Yamansa, but now has been claimed instead by outcasts and wannabe pirates who prefer somewhat soggy land to the true open ocean. South of the Sodden Lands is the archipelago called the Shackles. Filled to the brim with free ports and pirates alike, this troublesome geographical island chain used to be the scourge of the seas. However, since the Eye of Abendigo cut trade routes considerably, the pirate lords now mostly spend their days racing circles around the maelstrom for fun, I think. South of the Shackles is the most dangerous part of the Mwangi Expanse, called the Carver Lands. At least, we think it is the most dangerous, because almost no one who ventures into its jungles ever returns. Obviously, this also means we know almost nothing about this part of Garund, so it could be fantastic, but it's probably evil. The rest of the Mwangi Expanse dominates the central sprawl of Garund. Literally hundreds of polities exist here, from the humblest tribe to the mightiest kingdom, and while they are not captured on our maps, rest assured they are just as weird as anything Aveston offers. There's the city ruled by an undead mummified child, the city where the streets are literally paved with gold just to flex, the city built around an enormous well that seems to go to Golarion's core. Oh, actually, that's the same city. And there's the city whose ruler needs to usurp the previous monarch and get themselves literally torn to pieces by the Demon Lord of Savagery to qualify for a coronation. But that's just another day in the Mwangi Expanse. Given all this, it will still come as no surprise to you to learn that colonists from Aveston have been attempting to control Garund for some time. Most notably, Cheliax established a sprawling vassal state called Sagava around the southern edge of the Expanse. This was great if you didn't need to live there, but those who did decided enough was enough and became instead the Free State of Vidria in 4715. The border here is a little off, Vidria is only here, but the sentiment certainly extends throughout the whole continent. Moving along, we come to the southeastern edge of the Inner Sea, dominated by the region's most famous rival nations, Nex in the north and Geb in the south. Both nations are named after their respective founders, and both founders spent considerable time and resources destroying each other's territories before one rage quit and the other killed himself, then unintentionally returned as a ghost, which in hindsight as a necromancer he should have seen coming. A marred strip of land separates these two nations called the Mana Wastes, because anyone who tries to cast spells there inevitably wastes mana. It's not that magic doesn't work per se, just that magic never works how it is intended. Consequently, the local dwarves developed a new kind of magic wand, since popularized across Golarion: the gun. The final continental country in the Inner Sea is Katapesh, which is possibly the most trade-friendly nation around. They say that if it exists, it can be bought in one of its legendary bazaars. The weirdest thing about it is its leadership, the 5 so-called Pact Masters who arrived out of nowhere about 1,000 years ago and conquered the nation. They dress like this to disguise themselves and stand at 7 feet tall. Throw in the fact that they may have arrived by airship, and you have a recipe for certain rumours about their origins. And finally, we have the island of Jalmaray. It is often described as a secluded paradise, similar to Hermia. But unlike Hermia, which is literally perfect, Jalmaray has a past stained by genocide. Today, however, it is governed with soft hands, and best known for its assortment of monastic schools with astoundingly high entry requirements. Basically, if you can't out-genie a genie, don't even bother. Well, that concludes Garund, and thus also the Inner Sea region as a whole. Let me remind you that Golarion is far more than the lands described here, though rare is the adventurer who realises this. On the other hand, I think there is enough to be getting on with, no? I need more coffee. You just, process for a little bit. Yeah. I'll return soon. Until then.